Adriana, did you find the one that we usually play?
That's the cue that it's there. Yeah.
Where? The music we usually play?
Well, you have to play this, and I was playing the newest one.
That's the one I wanted. There we go. Thank you. Nothing I can do about it. Nope. All right. Good morning. Today's lesson 202. I will be still an instant and go home. Adriana's warning me we've got sunspots today and other kinds of issues that we're trying to take care of. Most of which I can't do anything about. So we're just going to do the best we can today. And I'm going to read the lesson. We're going to do the best we can. So, seems like everything's working. Here we go. Lesson 202. I will be still an instant and go home. General instructions. Lesson 202 is a review of lesson 182. We will begin and end each session with the theme behind this review lesson, which is, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Workbook lesson 202 also says, I will be still an instant and go home. Why would I choose to stay an instant more where I do not belong, when God Himself has given me His voice to call me home? I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. And that's the lesson. Short and sweet on the reviews. So I'm going to go read the notes from lesson 182. It's going to get into that a little bit deeper. I'll be right with you guys. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Christ's patience has no limits. Christ will wait until you hear His gentle voice for truth within you, calling you to let you go to Him in peace, and in peace along with you to where Christ is at home in heaven, and you with Him. All right, here are the notes to lesson 182. I will be still an instant and go home. Where are you? This is a basic question, and yet we fail to ask it because we believe the answer is obvious. But is it? When asked, we typically respond in a superficial way by providing an address or a specific location on planet Earth, which we assume to be our true reality. We fail to go beyond the superficial and ask if this world is real or if it's only an illusion. If it's an illusion, it has no ability to change the truth of who we really are. If it's an illusion, we are real, and it cannot be our home. Before you can answer where you are, you need to first determine what you are. If you are unlimited spirit, part of the shared mind of God, your home cannot be a world of lack, limitation, and separation. Yet, because we fail to understand what we are, we tend to answer the question of where we are based upon our erroneous beliefs that the body is us and time and space are real. The world we perceive is not our home, and something deep inside of us tells us that this cannot be where we belong. God did not create the fear-based world that you perceive to be your provisional reality. If God created you, this cannot be your home. The egoic, fearful world we have made and perceive to be our reality is not a worthy home for God's Son, the Christ, your higher self. The egoic, fearful world we have made and perceive to be our reality is not a worthy home for God's child, the Christ, your higher self. Instead, this illusionary world provides the game board where we can play the game of what am I in perfect safety. Because we have forgotten who we are, our egos have mistaken the game token of the body to be our reality. Our egos now defend this game token, and in that defense, make the game of what am I appear real. Our decision maker has chosen to follow the voice for fear, and our egos have turned the game of what am I into a detour into fear. This decision to follow the ego's fear-based thought system has turned our provisional reality into hell. The Christ, our big S self, is like an innocent child that has accompanied its parent into the movie theater. This child does not belong in a movie that represents lack, limitation, and separation. Instead, this child reflects the holiness and innocence of its divine birthright as part of the indivisible one self. We are the home of Christ, for we are not of this world, but rather mind and spirit. We too are part of the shared mind of God. The Christ in us remembers that the theater that we have brought this child into is not our reality. Instead, it is an illusionary world in which we decide what movie we will watch. Our decision maker has freely decided to watch the horror show called Fear. There's nothing wrong with someone's decision to attend a horror movie. Every day, many people go out to our movie houses and pay for the right to be scared out of their minds or wits, or minds and wits. But these people realize that what they see on the movie screen is merely an illusion and is not real. Yet, if you fail to remember where you are, it's easy to get caught up in the drama, get pulled into the story that appears on the big screen. When you do this, the movie theater quickly becomes a scary place. Yet once you remember where you are, your fear quickly dissipates and you can go back to watching and enjoying the show. The Christ asks your decision maker to stop attending these fearful shows and to realize that the illusionary world of your provisional reality is not your real home. This child knows that the dream world of lack, limitation, and separation is not real and longs to return with you to the home God created for his Son. The Christ, your big ass self, and the Holy Spirit ask that your decision maker give up your dreams of sin, guilt, and fear and return with them to your real home. They know that you remain as God created you, perfect, whole, and complete, and therefore have never lost your innocence. Your decision maker must first decide what you are, if it's to properly answer the question of where you are. Within each of us is the voice for God that knows the answer. We are aliens in this fear-based world. The voice for truth seems weak due to our decision maker's habit of following the voice for fear. When you are still and quiet, the egoic mind chatter, when you are still and you quiet the egoic mind chatter, you will hear the voice from deep within that knows that fear cannot be your home. This inner voice will not abandon you because you have freely chosen to attend this movie house for fear. The voice for God trusts you because it knows what you are. This voice will lead you back to that truth and reawaken your sleeping mind. When you decide to stop defending yourselves against a fantasy, the illusion no longer will appear real and it must disappear. Truth needs no defense. Let Christ's defenselessness be your strength. And that's the notes from 182, which is the lesson we're reviewing. I went back and read those to get us a little bit more familiar. And Tom, if you're with us, would you like to take us on a little activity for 182?
Yeah, I'd like to if I could. And lesson 202 says that, it says, I will be still and go home an instant. And then the general instructions, I am not a body, I am free, I am still as God created me. And so then we're supposed to, repeat this idea, I will be still in an instant and go home. And as they said in that first review, we should be writing that down or trying to remember to say that to ourselves throughout the day. But for today, let's go to the movies. So why don't you get in a comfortable position and just, sink on down in your chair. And recently, actually, I went to a movie. I hadn't been to one for, maybe 4 or 5 years. But uh, this movie house had these big cushiony seats in it. Even you could rock in them a little, which you know. So whatever. Why don't you just sink down in your cushion? We're going to the movies, and why don't you become aware of the theater, the movie house that we're in, and just relax into that chair, that seat. Take your seat and notice with you that you've got a couple of companions that you've brought to the movie house. One seems to be a little child. We'll call that your ego. And it's maybe 10 years old, but it just sits down and, it wiggles around a little in the chair and, how kids are. But it's settling down. You tell it to settle down. We're going to be watching a movie. It'll be starting soon. The other seems to be uh, your higher self, and it's also sitting next to you. And you take your seat between the ego and this higher self, and you're kind of the decision maker. And today, you, as a decision maker, are going to decide what movies we're going to see in this theater of your mind. So, what I'd like you to do as the decision maker, which is really the mind, your essence, why don't you think of yesterday? What I'd like you to do is think about your last, or maybe supper, your last meal that you had, and let's project that onto our movie house of our mind and go there again and think of that room that you were in. The Course in Miracles says to think, and the Course in Miracles is good for strange definitions. Thinking is the claim that you do not know. So today we're going to engage in a little thinking, and we're going to think about where we were yesterday, where you were when you were eating. Were you at home, or were you in a restaurant? Maybe you were at your work. Where were you? And as you think about that and decide where you were, just be there for a moment. And what were you eating? What did you have in that meal? And as you think of that, I want you to ask yourself, what are you doing? Are you actually in the present moment eating? Or were you maybe watching TV, doing some other thing? Maybe listening to a telephone conversation or uh, texting. Was your meal interrupted? Where were you really when you were eating that meal? Were you actually being aware of the intake of the food? Did you actually taste it, savor that food? Or was your mind elsewhere? Maybe concerned with what you had to do, shoveling down the food so that you could get on to your next task. Where were you? And what were you? Were you your body? Or when we think now, what I'd like you to do is to be still a moment and go home. Stop your thinking and go home. What does that mean? Stop my thinking and go home. Just quiet your egoic thoughts. Just quiet it down and be still. Now, when we still ourselves, we start becoming perhaps aware of what we're observing. Let's now take another trip. Let's choose another film to play in our mind. And what I'd like you to do is to take a film out, a memory of a time when maybe you were a child, maybe not, but a time that was frightening. And let's revisit or go there in our mind to that memory when we were frightened. If you can't think of a time whenever you were frightened, maybe pick one whenever you were sad. And let's take our little ego, that child, to this movie. And let's kind of watch that child as he gets sucked in to the memory of that movie, that experience of perhaps being frightened or being sad. And that child, you start seeing that they're somewhat agitated as they sit next to you. They're getting caught up in the movie, getting caught up that now they see themselves on the screen and that now start thinking that they are not observing the event, but they're performing those events. And they're not an actor anymore. They're real. They're on that screen. And there's the ghost scaring them or whatever it was that's frightening or making them sad. Just watch that child. Feel what they feel. They're scared. Now you, as a decision, whisper in that child's ear that's next to you, that ego. It's a dream. It's an illusion. This is just a memory. Our mind has gone someplace. And look, we're at the theater. Look at the edges of the screen. That projection. It's just a light show. You're still sitting here with me. You're not on that screen. You're in my mind. Your spirit, your essence. And the child calms down, giggles a little, laughs perhaps, realizing that what they perceived to be them was just an illusion. It wasn't real. It seemed frightening. But now you, as a decision maker, have gently reawakened that child to the truth that they're still in the sea, that that was just an illusion. Where are you? Are you in that theater of your mind? Or are you still at your house in your body? I think you'll probably find you were in the theater of your mind. You had left the awareness of the game token we call the body, and you were there. Your child, your ego self was there. Let's take another adventure. Let's go and let our minds go into a fantasy. Let us now have a fantasy or a memory, and it doesn't have to be a fantasy, it could be a memory of a pleasant moment, a happy time. And let's go there in our mind's eye, in our theater of our mind, and let's relive, replay that moment. And let's recall it. And this is a happy time, a pleasant time. Look down at that child, that ego, and see the ego smiling, giggling, and again getting caught up in the surrounding, in the game, seeing itself being part of the adventure, back on that screen, reliving that memory, strutting itself on that silver screen, recalling, acting, enjoying the movie. And just watch that child as they get caught up in this illusion of a happy time, a time when everything was right in their world, when they were enjoying themselves, being accepted, not being judged, and just let them sit in that dream. Again, you as an adult, let them enjoy that dream for a bit. And now reach over, say, child, my ego, it's time to leave the theater. The play's over, the movie house is over. And the child now sees the movie and the lights come up and they realize that they were just in a theater. They enjoyed the movie, they enjoyed the present. In the now, I will be still an instant and go home. Let's pack up from that movie theater and go back to our home, back from the movie theater of our mind. And since it's our mind, where we go is instantaneous. We're back home. I will be still an instant and go home. Let's be still with our thoughts. Let's be still and quiet our egoic thought and just rest in your home. Where is that home? That is your mind. That's where you wish to place your essence. Let's place that now in an essence where we feel totally accepted, totally loved. No needs, no wants, just total acceptance. I will be still an instant and go home. All egoic thoughts of separation, of limitation, of having to earn my right to this moment of peace. Gone. My egoic thoughts gone. I now know the truth of what I am. I bask in the love, the total acceptance of my true home. Not the body, but the mind of God, of unconditional love. And I, like that little child, am caught up, just feeling love, feeling accepted for what I am, allowed to be or imagine anything I want in perfect safety because I know God, my higher self, is there with me, in me, of me, surrounding me, and that I am protected. For God's love surrounds and encompasses me, and I am home, feel the love of God. I will be still and go home. I accept the love of God, for I am not a body. I am free. I, as decision, can choose where I wish to place my awareness. I, as decision, can choose what films I want to view today. I, as decision, can play a film today. I can play on this world, this game board of time and space, this world of perception. I can allow myself, if I want, to get caught up in the events that swirl around. I can forget that I am spirit. I can play my role. I can, if I choose to, remember that I am not a body. I am free. And when I do that, I will remember that this time space world of perception has no ability to change the truth of what I am. I will remember that it's kind of all a light show, a projection of my own mind. I, an actor strutting on the stage, playing my role, and I can not move into judgment. I can not move into fear. I can be love informed. I can demonstrate what love would have me do. And if I get caught up in the drama, if I get sucked up and react in a way that I may at a later time perceive as maybe not being loving, I'll be kind to myself. I'll be gentle. And I'll know that the Holy Spirit can reach over and tell you are God's beloved child. You remain perfect, whole, and complete. No guilt, no shame, no blame. You can forgive yourself for getting caught up in the illusion. You are not a body. You are free. And with that remembrance, you remember, you recall that you're just an actor on a stage. Don't have to take yourself too seriously. You realize that anytime you're in charge of where you, how you choose to interpret your event. I am not a body. I am free. I will be still an instant and go home. You have that power within. And as we've taken this journey, I'd like to ask you on this journey, where were you? Were you in the body or were you traveling through this game board of time and space to the memory of your mind? You are mine, and you, as mine, determine as decision where you wish to place your attention. You can, if you choose, to quiet the egoic mind and always go home. And with that thought, let's reconnect to this neutral communication device that we need to hold a space on this game board of time and space. And let's just reconnect with it. And let's send our attention, our energy onto that body, reconnecting, reactivating it, and taking on the costume of the body so that we can play the roles that's been assigned to us to play and realize that today we have a choice to slip into fear or be love. And that choice is you. So when you feel comfortable, just take a deep breath and maybe ground yourself on this game word of time and space and realize that today, on the hour, or every 15 minutes, whenever you can remember this exercise. Remember that I am not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. I will be still an instant and go home. Then after you've connected, just go about on your day knowing that you could always go home. Create a great day for yourself and your world. Namaste. The God in me recognizes the God in you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Namaste. I really appreciate you taking us through that activity. That was a really good one. I like going and watching those movies and realizing that I'm in more control than I've ever given myself credit for. Today, I'm going to take a deep breath before I respond. Today, I'm going to take an instant to be still and go home so that God can guide my responses. And I'll let you know how it goes tomorrow when I report back. How are you doing this morning, Janine? And if anybody down below wishes to come up, you're welcome. Sometimes in the summers, we have just really nice quick sessions. And so I'm going to end the stream right now. And thank you all for being here. It's really much easier to work through these lessons together as a team. And with you guys as my mighty companions, this year's been a breeze so far. And I really, really appreciate you all.